Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpru.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to hang out with you once again, talking small business. So many things going on so far this year, and really exciting but scary times. And today we're really going to talk about, how to really deal with some of the things that are going on and prepare, because, when there's challenges, there's opportunities, but also, when it's challenging, you have to be more proactive. You have to be more creative and more flexible. So what does that mean? We're going to talk to you about some of the big challenges today. So today our guest is Gene Bohensky. He's, a business coach, marketing, sales strategist. He leads a tab board and really does some great stuff. We've worked together on several projects and really sharp in terms of his business knowledge and understanding of how to guide business owners through challenging times. So, he's a regular. We usually have him on once a quarter, and excited about having him on again. Hey, Gene, how are you doing today?
Great. How about you?
I'm great. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Sure.
Definitely, lots really going on these days. In the last month, a lot has changed in terms of really, one of the biggest things is interest rates have gone up a whole lot. A lot of things are going on. And
so fast too, right? It was just like a couple of weeks. It went like crazy.
Right. From like 3% to 5% on mortgage.
Right.
And that might not be all. So definitely today we want to talk a little bit about, where things are, where things may be going, and how to prepare yourself to continue to be successful based on where things may be going. So cool. So Gene, before we get started, you've done a lot of things and you've worked with a lot of business owners, but talk a little bit about your journey, how you got to here, where you are, and then we'll go on to sort of talk about where things go from here.
Well, I started my career as an engineer. I studied engineering, and I landed my first job in technical sales, selling pumps and valves. Through a lot of my career, I stayed on the manufacturer side, working for manufacturers in the sales and marketing departments, leading sales organizations. So a lot of my clients today are in manufacturing, and so I get a unique window into what's happening really at the ground level of a lot of businesses. Of course, I've been a business coach for 7 years. When I started my tab franchise, we have over 30 members in the franchise, a lot of manufacturers. So we really get a lot of really grassroots information to see what's happening out there. Really, before it's everybody, we kind of know what's going on beforehand. Now it looks like
Excellent.
for some. Oh, there you go.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So, you've done a lot of great things. And today's topic, really important is really talking about inflation and really, is it stealing your profits? Everybody can see in the supermarket and in Home Depot and other places at the gas pumps that prices have gone up in many cases significantly. So, what does that mean, and how is that affecting your profits, and what should we be thinking about?
Well, that's the key thing. One of the things that I saw from some of my clients is that a lot of them were not really addressing inflation proactively, and as a result, saw their profits decline. And there's a number of reasons why this could happen, which is the reason for our conversation today, is to really get business owners to understand what it's like to actually survive in an inflationary environment. I mean, it's been a long time since we've had sustained inflation. Most of the business owners and most people working have never really lived through that time where you had sustained inflation. And if your costs are going up really uncontrollably, and you're not increasing your prices fast enough, you could really be in a situation where your profits could be declining without even really realizing it. So one of the things that I try to do for my clients is to get them to understand what are the ramifications of being in this inflationary environment, and what are the proactive things that you can do uh, to make sure that you survive through this. So I think we're in a little bit of a rough patch. Some people are going to thrive, as in at any time of great change, you're going to have winners and losers. So here we just want to make sure that we help those to become winners, right? That's our job as coaches and as consultants, to help our clients get through these tough times.
Right. And just really be able to have some perspective and
Right.
understand what's coming and really how you can address it successfully within your business. You know, definitely, you work with a lot of business. I work with a lot of businesses as well. And one of the challenges is many business owners don't really understand their costs. And
Right.
because of that, that puts them at even greater risk for challenges during the inflationary period. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you help people get a better handle on their costs for a
Well,
price?
let's start at the beginning. A lot of business owners really are uncomfortable with raising prices, right? So there's a built-in, limitation or barrier that people have to want to really pass on cost increases. And it's actually exacerbated when you don't really know what those cost increases are. In today's environment, everything is going up faster than people expect, right? You have energy costs that are going crazy. You have um, you have inflation and just general everything you see, food, drink. But what people don't realize is that the inflation on component parts, let's say you're a manufacturer and you want screws. I have manufacturers that are telling me the cost of screws have doubled or tripled, or spacers have doubled, right? O-rings. These are the basic building blocks of products that are made. Right, and these things are going up like crazy, not only because they're hard to get a hold of today, because you also have supply chain challenges, but your costs are going up in some cases to such a degree that first of all, you don't know, it's too fast to actually calculate what your true costs are. And you couple that with the fear of raising prices. So a lot of business owners are afraid that if they raise their prices too high, that they're going to lose customers, or that you're going to have uncomfortable conversations with your customers about price and you'd want to avoid them. Well, let me tell you, this is the wrong time to be afraid of raising prices. And one of the things I help my clients do is get them to understand you got to raise prices more than you expect. Most likely, the feedback is that customers accept the price increases because they understand what's happening. It's going, they're seeing it themselves, right? And one of the things that I have to give you this experience, one of my clients actually thought they were raising prices more. They were in industrial distribution, and so they were trying to raise prices, but when they went back and looked at their costs, they found out that their margins were less than expected. Their margins actually dropped 3% over the period. And the business owner was shocked. He couldn't believe that that happened. And in their case, that was a significant amount of money, right? That was a difference between profit and loss for that quarter. And really, we got him to change the attitude where he made sure that he increased prices to the extent that he could. And he actually went further than he would have otherwise. And he was actually able to increase his margin 6%. And so his actual gross margins in the last quarter were the highest they've ever been. So the good news is, and I think that one of the things we want to mention to everyone out there is that there is a silver lining to this, is that when you understand how to properly cost your products and how to have those difficult conversations to ask for those price increases, you will wind up more profitable than you were before. That's the good news.
Okay, so there is good news, and I think that I always look at it. Most small businesses underprice anyways, so this is
Right.
a good opportunity to really get your pricing in line with where it should be. And one of the things about pricing is value, and being able to offer value commensurate with your pricing. And you know how do you assess value? When you're talking with clients and businesses, how can they get a feel for what the value is of what they do? Because many times it's hard to get a handle on, and a lot of times because of that we underestimate it.
Well, this is why you always need to have a coach or a mentor to help you, right? So one of the things that every business owner needs is someone to help them understand what makes them valuable, what makes them unique, and why their product or service is better than the competition. I think I've mentioned before on a previous program, most business owners present themselves as the generic version of themselves, right? So if they're a masonry contractor, they just present themselves as a regular masonry contractor, or a web designer. I'm just a web designer. I want to help companies build websites. But when you actually probe and you actually ask questions and find out more about what they do, you realize that over time they've developed some sort of secret sauce, some specialty that has enabled them to maintain their best clients and get the good new clients. They really have something unique and important for their target customer base. That's one of the things a good coach helps a business owner formulate for themselves. What is it that they do best? And usually those are the things that you can also really charge more for, or at least charge the value for, right? Something that you do differently than anybody else. In those cases, that aids, of course, in their confidence to be able to get the proper rates for their service or the proper prices for their products. Because if you don't do that, if you're not really on top of that, you can find yourself really way off on pricing. And I'll give you another example. One of my clients is a manufacturer, and they make a product that is arguably the best in the marketplace. And they've always priced that product about 20% less than their competition. And right now they can't do that anymore. What ended up happening is that, like a lot of things in the market today, in their specific market, one of their main competitors is not able to deliver product. So you have everyone in the world trying to come to them for product, and they don't have the capacity. So it was this trying to explain and coach them that it's now time to start charging market prices. It's now time to start charging for your product the same as your competitors are charging. You offer a similar quality, in fact, it's even better. It's now time to get what the product is worth. And the other thing that's happening in a lot of companies is that they are charging expedite fees for things that need to be done quicker than average. This is what happens when people are over capacity. And not just for manufacturing, it could be if you're a web designer, if you're over capacity, if you're a contractor and you're over capacity, if somebody needs a job done or needs a product done right away and needs it done faster than you could normally provide it, that gives you the opportunity to charge extra. Maybe you charge 25%, an extra expedite fee to get that order at the front of the line. These are the things that companies can do today to make sure they're profitable. And it's also important to understand that this is not being greedy. Today, this is a very volatile environment. Companies need to stay profitable to survive. You need to have the profit in the times that you could make it for the times when the business might slow down and you won't have that demand. Right? So now's the time to really get prepared. We don't know what's happening in the future. There's so many ominous signs from the pending war, with ongoing wars that we're always worried about, interest rates that are rising, energy costs that are rising, possible shortages all over the place, whether it's food, whether it's components, the huge lockdown in China that has stopped a lot of production and also a lot of shipping. All those things portend to a very difficult second half of the year. And we're all going to have to prepare for that in our business, not only from the standpoint of making sure we have enough products available, enough services to provide, but that we're also profitable today. We're making money in what we're doing, right? To help us through the rest of the year. I think that's a really important thing to point out to people.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you're in business to make profit, so you shouldn't be ashamed to make money. You know, and like you said, there's a lot of things going on that can impact you throughout the year. And sometimes you may make more, but that'll cover you for when you make less.
I mean, it's just like when we had COVID and we had to get the PPP loans and EIDL loans. A lot of people weren't sure whether they could get them or should qualify. And I told all my clients, make sure you sign up, make sure you qualify. COVID has impacted your business or will, and you have no idea what could possibly happen. And when I look back, a lot of the customers, a lot of my clients that got those loans were instrumental in making sure those customers survived and made it through. And so the same thing is today. If you have the possibility of getting extra business and making it profitable, you've got to do that because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And you've got to prepare yourself and your business for survival because that's what we need to do. We're business owners, we're survivors, right? That's the way we are.
Yeah. And actually, I'd say that may be one of the things that government's actually gotten right in terms of getting money to businesses, because a lot more probably would have closed if they hadn't done as good a job as they had.
Well, I think I said this to you before. I think that program was one of the best things. Nowhere else in the world did the government help private business owners with their business. And a lot of businesses were able to comfortably either pivot or take action during the time when they would otherwise be afraid. It's just too bad that so many businesses didn't take advantage of the program. I think I mentioned to you before, I even ran into business owners whose accountants told them not to take the loan because they didn't need it. And then they realized, yes, they had to lay off people. They desperately needed it. And they had advice not to take loans. So, my advice to any business owner is you don't know what's happening tomorrow. If you have opportunities, you seize the day and and make sure your business is profitable.
Okay. Yes.
Job number one.
Definitely, that's what it's all about. Um, we're talking more about inflation and kind of what's going on. We're gonna take a quick break. We do this show through the Small Business Pro University, so we'll just take a second to kind of learn a little bit more about what the Small Business Pro University is. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in tonight. We've got a great audience, and welcome any comments, questions, feedback, ideas that you may have. Feel free to put them in the chat, or even if you just want to say hello and check in. So let's take a break real quick, and then Gene and I will be back talking small business and how you can make sure inflation doesn't hamper you and your business. Do you own your business, or does it own you? Is your business growing, and are you making enough money? As a business owner, there are so many things you need to know to become more successful. Hello, my name is Andrew Frazier, the Business Growth Pro and CFO. I created the Small Business Pro University for you. Small Business Pro University has self-paced, dynamic, multimedia learning experiences created by more than 20 instructors who are business owners just like you. Small Business Pro University will empower you to become a masterpreneur by learning the secrets to creating a successful enterprise, to go from working in your business to working on your business. Take advantage of our strategic coaching program, or just simply choose the courses that you need at www.sbprou.com. We will empower you to thrive and not just survive, and make more money in any business environment. Welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. I'm here with Gene Bohensky, and we're talking about inflation and pricing and how to prepare your business to succeed through this challenges. One key thing and one huge thing is employees. The labor market's really tight. It's hard to find good employees. It's becoming more expensive to have employees. What kind of things are you talking to your clients about, and how to manage through from an employee standpoint, impact on pricing and inflation?
Well, the first thing is as you pointed out, it's a tough time for business owners and their employees. First of all, it's been tough for business owners to find the right employees. There's a shortage of labor, especially here in New Jersey. Difficult to find people to fill your jobs, and it's difficult to hold on to people. The first thing that I would say is it's time to plan to give your employees raises. So some of my clients have given 10% or more raises and plan to give more as they realize that the costs of living for their employees is just too high. And why do you want to do that? Well, first of all, you want to keep them. You want to keep the best employees, because they're not going to stay very long if you're not going to really look out for them, especially on the lower income levels. You want to take care of those people because you want them to be committed to your business. The most successful people in business pay their people well. And that's another reason why you have to make sure you're charging enough for your product or service. You need to be able to pay properly for your employees, because otherwise they'll leave you. They could go someplace else. I think that's a lesson number one. Number two, you got to really pay attention to getting employees on your team. It's going to take a little bit extra work than you did before. If you're a business owner, you should find somebody to help you write the job description and write the job ad, because you're going to be competing with other businesses that are having those services done professionally. For my coaching practice, I have a hiring consultant that helps out with those things. She's an incredible person. She is able to get better candidates than you would otherwise yourself. This is not the job market of 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. Interviews are different. The jobs are different. The way you reach out to people are different. One idea from one of my clients that has a landscaping company, they needed to fill 15 slots. And those people are notoriously difficult to get. So what they did is they put on a hiring fair, and they advertised that hiring fair on cable news and on Facebook. And they aggressively got in those people. They paid them more, and they were able to hire their 15 people that they needed to fill their spots for the busy summer landscaping season. They were aggressive, but they got it done, and they got it done unconventionally. So in these times, you have those two big problems: the lack of people and the fact that costs are going up, and you have to take care of the people that you have. The other thing I want to point out is there's a lot of people that talk about the reasons why there are shortages. The biggest reason, actually, among many of them, is that a large percentage, or much larger percentage, of baby boomers have elected to retire and get out of the labor force than expected. I think the number is something like 3 million excess baby boomers have left the workforce through the COVID time. And of course, that means that some of the most skilled and experienced people have left the workforce. One of the things that I saw on a recent business trip as we were going through many of the northern states, everywhere you went, restaurants and rest stops was just had a lack of people working in them. Many of the restaurants were closed because they couldn't get people to work in them. And you have to be diligent as a business owner to make sure you have the right people working for you and that you're paying them well through this time. That's another aspect of survival that is going to be challenging going forward. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, the people question, we have businesses that are doing less business as a result of the pandemic and what's going on, but there's also businesses that are doing way more.
That's right.
Why is that happening, and how should people approach that if that's something that's going on with their type of business?
Well, we put on ourselves during the time 2 years ago. We put on trends presentations of what was happening, and what happened with COVID is that trends accelerated. They accelerated into the stratosphere, right? Things that were normally going to take 10 or 15 years to happen happened in 2. And so you have a tremendous dislocation. You have people that really grabbed on to those changes, right? Whether it's restaurants that focused on takeout, right, that are still doing more takeout business, people doing more online programs, manufacturing that is booming because of issues with supply chain dislocation has forced all kinds of changes for anybody who's making things. There's just so many changes that have happened at once that have really forced this rapid dislocation in business and in employees, and so everyone just has to keep up, and they have to continue to reevaluate what they're doing to make sure they're doing the right things. One of my clients that signed on is an older company that was using a lot of communication methods that were not effective anymore. And when I explained to them of all the different social media options that they elected not to choose, I was explaining how people think differently and how they consume information differently and how people's attention spans have changed right through this time. Uh, that require business owners, if they don't know, they need to reach out to people to help them. They need to reach out to a coach or a consultant or a mentor that can help them evaluate where they are to put them on the right track going forward. A lot of business problems out there are solvable. It's going to take some change in the way you're looking at your business. It's also going to require change in the way you personally conduct business in order to be successful. But the good news is that it's possible, even in an inflationary environment. It's even going to be possible for people when, we hope this doesn't happen, but if there's a recession or something even worse coming down in the future, there's always going to be businesses that are going to thrive and survive through those times. And the question is whether your business is going to be one of those, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, the difference between thriving and surviving many times, we've talked about it, is, number one, you have to be proactive. You can't be the one that, you know, doesn't, you want to be the one that knows what happened. You can't be the one that wondered what happened, or actually, I know the joke, but it's not. Let's see what it's. If you are the one that um, didn't know what happened, um, wondered what happened, or knows what happened. Maybe someone could help me with that. But basically, at the end of the day, you have to be proactive and understand what's going on and see what's happening. You can't be a laggard in that, because there's too many things changing and that can impact you. And by lagging and not understanding and seeing and making changes, that's going to put you at a severe disadvantage. Especially pricing, like we're talking about. If your costs go up a lot and you don't realize it until a month or two later, that means you're losing money for a month or two, and
That's
maybe
right.
even
And
longer.
those numbers can be significant,
Hmm.
right? Those numbers can be significant.
Yes.
And I've seen that myself at clients that had huge shortfalls from not, the biggest danger that you have today is that people think this is just transitory and it's going to go back to normal. And so what they're going to do is eat some of the difference in the meantime to help their customers get through this, right? That's the biggest risk. For people taking that road are going to be in trouble, because this isn't transitory. This is a trend, and we could be seeing. I mean, look, some products have gone up double or triple, right? Okay, you can't just go by the number that they're putting on CNBC as the inflation number, right? That's not what you have to go by. You have to really assess the things that you personally buy for your business, right? You have to see how much those have gone up. Because let me tell you, if you got to buy some important part and it goes up triple, right? Or it's like if you're in a precision sheet metal business and the sheet metal goes up 400%, right? That's not 10%, that's 400%. Right? You have to pass on that. Or is another case where one of my clients imports some mechanical equipment out of Korea. Okay, the price from Korea went up 5%, but shipping went up triple. They had to put another 10% price increase on that product just to cover shipping costs. And it comes from places that you don't necessarily think they're going to come from. And unless you're doing an analysis of it, you might be flat-footed. You might realize, my God, I didn't realize this, but I'm paying X amount for this, and my profit is gone.
Yep. And it's even a bigger issue if you're taking orders and before you actually develop and deliver the products and services far in advance, because you could be signing contracts and purchase orders for prices as they are now, but that might not be the price that it costs you to deliver your products and services in the future.
It's really tough for people that have worked on a just-in-time method. It's harder for them because not only do they have the supply chain issues that come out of nowhere. I mean, another one of my clients, they make a product with a computer chip that's a shortage. It's a shortage, and that normally it's normally a 4 to 6 week lead on the product, right? Normally those chips were available, and they weren't really diligent. They didn't want to put any stock in. Except they went back to the vendor and said, okay, well, the next allotment of chips for you is October 2023, right? Now, that's 18 months out. What do? They're faced with a full product redesign for no benefit, right? Because the chips are just not available. So, I mean, those kind of things are happening in the background everywhere, right? That you don't see. Or the boards come in, replacement circuit board, right? Instead of $42, okay, well now we'll sell it to you, but the replacements are 102. They go up 150%. So these things are happening all over the place, and this is why the inflation is just getting started, because the effects of, and this is one of the things I really wanted to point out, is that when you take a look at what's happening on the supply chain for basic manufacturing, those costs are going up like crazy. So that hasn't filtered in yet to consumer products yet. We're still a ways away from this. But it's just like with cars. The cars manufacturers are gonna be facing with this. I know that there's a couple of manufacturers that are putting in 10% price increase on car list prices for 2023, right? You thought the markups were bad because of the shortage. Well, I mean, they've had huge cost increases on rubber, on glass, on metals. So really, if you this is my personal feeling, if you need to buy anything big now, you better buy it now, because I'll give you another story. I was looking at a fireplace insert, right, for my house, and there was a model that was available for $24.99 on whatever store it was, right? Well, guess what that price is now? $32.99. It went up $800. That's 30%. That's a big number. Right. So these are the things that are happening out there. So if you're looking to buy something for yourself, if you wait, you could be prepared to. It's not going to go up 5%. It's going to go up 30. It's going to go up 50. That's the reality of what's happening out there. So I mean, not only from a consumer standpoint, from a business standpoint as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I'm doing some work on one of my rental houses, and we had to run copper pipe. It's $800 for 100 feet of copper pipe. That's crazy. And
yeah, I mean, look, this is coming. This is on all areas. So I mean, like, if you're saving a lot of money, I don't know where this is all headed, but we just have to be prepared. Everyone has to be prepared to live in this environment, to make sure they're raising prices, to make sure they're buying anything they need, if it's either for their home or for their business, to make sure you're buying things competitively and you're really watching the price of things. You're watching your own costs, right? Because it's not just one time. I mean, if a can of paint goes from 20 to $50, it's going up. It's not coming down. Things don't go back down. It's
right. And it could go from 20 to 50 to 80 to 90. So that's the other thing, is you got to keep your eyes on it. So
you got to keep your eyes on it.
You got to be
No,
proactive.
Yeah.
And thanks, Jack, for getting me the quote right. You got to be the people who make things happen rather than the people who watch things happen. And definitely don't want to be the people who wondered what happened, especially in this environment. So
right.
That's 100% correct, Jack. So I appreciate you bringing that to.
I like that. That's a good one.
The right way. So yeah, definitely. Proactive is the first thing. You mentioned how you got to be creative. You got to think about doing things in different ways than you had done them before. It could be reconfiguring your products. It could be, working with your clients in a different way. A lot of different things you can do to creatively add more value, but also manage your costs better. So, having the creativity and then being flexible because things are changing.
One more thing that I want to point out is the conversations that you're going to be having with customers and clients are going to be different, especially if you're used to giving a good deal and always being the best price. I mean, a lot of people are like that out there. I have one client where we are having a hard time retraining the employees to have difficult conversations with customers. In the past, they didn't have to have those conversations. The product was in stock, it was always cheaper, it was always available, it was always cheaper than the competition. And now that's not the case anymore. They can't be the best, they can't have the best price anymore. They can't have the best delivery anymore, right? And so those conversations have to change with customers. The good news is that the customers are in the same boat. They know what's going on. They're trying to find things to buy and resell. They're trying to put together whatever they need to put together. But it requires people to act differently on the job. And depending on the situation that you're in, you're going to have to train not only yourself, but you're going to have to train your employees to have those difficult conversations that they don't want to have. You know, one of the hardest things that I learned in sales was to tell a customer no, right? I realized the power of no later in my career, when you can tell them, no, I can't do that, but I can do this, right? Not be afraid of saying, no, we can't do that, but I can do this instead for you, but that's the best that we can do because that's what the situation is. A lot of people are afraid of negative conversations, and those need to be what's the word for it? They need to be practiced, and you need to be able to teach people to move those into a positive outcome, right? If you're not used to having those, then it's not easy to get there, right? People want to avoid giving bad news to customers, but you know, I think it's the it's you know, as from a growth perspective, it's the growth that you need to go through as a business owner or a salesperson. You need to be able to have these difficult conversations with people and learn how to make them positive, where you realize you're helping them, right? Yes, I realize I don't have the products in stock, and I don't think they're coming in for another 6 weeks, right? I don't know when they're coming in, right? So, I mean, a lot of the things that I have at clients is that they have severe labor shortages and they can't physically get the work done that it needs to get done. So one of them was explained to me how they were always the best in the marketplace for their products. They had a number one quality satisfaction rate. Customers loved them. And last year they had to take an enormous amount of returns because they just couldn't get talented workers, and there was just too many failures, too many things happening in the plant that shouldn't happen. And the owner admitted to me, you know, I had a great business before, but I don't anymore because we can't get the people to uh, to do the work that they did before. And so you have trouble on all sides, right? So how are you going to communicate with customers and tell them what's going on and be able to help them honestly and in a positive way? You're realizing that, you know, things aren't really going the way we like it. There's all kinds of problems, from not getting parts, not having people to assemble the products, not having people that want to do the work that we need to do, right? Those challenges, and having costs going through the roof, not being able to meet and offer the product at the same price we did the last time that you worked with us, right?
Okay.
So
Now,
these are all things that every one of us have to face.
okay. And you know something interesting is whenever there's hard times, um, it makes you have to run your business better. And all these things aren't just things you should be doing now, but you should be doing all the time. It's
Right.
just more important to do them now because if you don't do them now, you may not be there tomorrow.
We
Um,
talked about that earlier, right? About how the real positive effect from this is that business owners are going to come out of this better than they were before. They're going to know their business. They're going to know the challenges that they have, right? They're going to have staff that are going to be trained on the difficult things. So people are going to get through this, but it's not going to be the same, right?
Right. And not everybody's going to make it through either.
Not everyone's going to make it through. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of people who aren't going to get help, right? So the people need to get help, and they need to know. And if anybody out there listening is a coach or a consultant and have people to influence or help, right? This is so critical that they get information, because some people get the wrong advice or have just are plain wrong about things, and then they get into trouble, right? People who don't want to increase prices because they don't think their customers will accept that. I've had that argument with people, right? I was so upset at one business owner. I said, you have to. I'm not leaving until you promise me that you raise those prices.
Right.
He got it later on, but he just he you know what, because he was comfortable always giving the customer a great deal. Do you understand? Some people just want to always give a great deal. It's a high for them. They want to make. I have a salesperson that I hired at a company that's like this, right? He loved to just be the hero all the time. You give the company better price, better product, better delivery, always better, right? But that's easy to do, right? The problem is that when you realize, and we took him through this exercise, that on one big order coming in, the owner said, I can't accept this order at this price. And so he went back to the customer and said, we don't have capacity to take this order at this price. He goes, well, I'm going to go to a competitor, right? The competitor was 35% higher, 35% higher. And he bought them from them, right? What was that 35% you left on the table all those years?
Yeah. I mean, you
Right?
definitely figure out a lot of those things. So one thing I just realized is we didn't really start at the beginning. So I just want to take things back because we may be taking for granted that people actually know what inflation is and what it means and how it works. And that may not be the case because as a business owner, you know what you do, but a lot of economics and finance and accounting may not be your background or expertise. But you hear about inflation, you hear it's bad, but what really is inflation, and why is it such a challenge?
Well, the basic challenge of inflation is that the costs of everything are rising. And that also means at the same time that the value of the money is declining, right? So that if you have $100 today, it is worth less tomorrow than it is today. And so we always live with a certain amount of inflation, but when it creeps up and it's a large amount, it becomes very difficult to control things. Things go up, but the basic problem is that over time, in a highly inflationary environment, the costs are rising faster than people's wages and ability to buy things. So what ends up happening is that your wealth actually decreases during an inflationary period. And that's one of the reasons why we want to avoid inflation, because the dollars that you have become worth less over time in terms of their purchasing power. And if the inflation is very high, those dollars, the value of those dollars drop even faster. I mean, I don't know, everyone knows the history of the hyperinflationary period in Germany in the 20s, in 1923 specifically, where all of a sudden, one mark went to 10, went to 100,000 to a half a million. I actually have coins like that. They're all made of these thin aluminum. I have a 3 mark coin, a 500, a 10,000, and I have one with a half a million mark. Now, I don't think that's going to happen here, but what that basically does is it erodes the power of your money. Your money becomes essentially worth less every month, right? And even worse than that, your money, if it's hyperinflationary, your money could end up being worthless. So your savings, the money that you've saved, in terms of its purchasing power, it declines to the point where you have less. And if you're not getting enough interest in your bank or in your stock market, and it's not making up um, for the inflation, your wealth is actually, your net real wealth is declining. So I made this example. Uh, I like these ShopRite pretzels with no salt on them, and for years they were $1 a bag, right, for a pound, for years. Then they went up to $1.49, but they always went on sale for $1. Then they weren't available at the beginning of the year, right? Then there were some available for $1.49, but now they're available, but they're $2.19. It's over double, right? So that means my money. If I was looking at the value of money in terms of pretzels, and it used to be $1, but now it's $2.19. My dollar is worth less than half than it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's inflation. That is a very difficult thing to deal with.
Mm-hmm. And with this is the fastest inflation has grown in a long time in the United States, and most people haven't been alive long enough to know about when interest rates were much higher, because they used to be 18%, and going from 5% to 18%, and it could still happen. I mean, there's mortgage rates have gone from like 3 to 5, but
Five and three quarters already.
yeah, and some people are saying they could be 10 by the end of the year. And what and the reason it goes up is because the value of the money is going down. So if you're lending, you have to charge more to be able to keep the value of what you're lending and make money on top of it. So
yeah, I mean, it's a really net negative force. People have to really pay attention. Someone else likes those pretzels too. Yeah, I always like those pretzels. There's no one else makes them, right? You can only get them from ShopRite.
right. Well,
But just things like that are happening everywhere. I mean, look at some of the way things have gone up. It's crazy.
yeah.
So for your own sanity, you have to watch out, pay attention to prices, whether it's personal or business.
And you got to reevaluate. I mean, I think one thing that we're always talked about, is you really have to know who the right target market is and who's going to value what you offer the most, because those are the people you're really going to need to focus on if you're going to be raising your prices, because then they'll still see the value in what you're doing. And so that's one of the key things in looking at that. So when you're working with people on finding the right niche or the right market, what are some of the key things that are important in being able to do that successfully?
I think the key thing when you're working with a client is to get them to categorize the customers that they have, and find out among them what are the ones they're making more profit on than others. Which are the ones that are most profitable? What are the services that you're doing that are most profitable? What are the people that benefit from what you do? And that's always an important exercise, because the 80/20 rule applies to not just sales, but your own anything that you do, right? So if you have 10 clients, most likely 2 of the clients are bringing in 80% of your profit. And so it's always having an analysis of that. Here again, a coach asking you the right questions and helping you through that process is going to help you find out. Now, I'll give you an example. I have an IT company that I'm working with, and like a lot of IT companies, they've grown over the years, but they've grown more than most, and they have about 15 people, and they want to grow further. And in questioning them, um, the owner was very clear about where, what their best type of customers were, right? That they are growing companies that have many seats, and they have the companies need a vendor, an IT vendor, to help them onboard a lot of new people and manage a large network of people all over the country. And I questioned him further. Turns out that they've developed all kinds of special procedures and processes to help those kind of companies. Yet what they did best didn't align to what they were doing in the sales end. On sales, they just presented themselves as any other local IT managed service provider, right? You couldn't tell anywhere in any of their marketing or sales literature that they developed anything special or they were targeting anybody. So one of the things that we tried to do with them is work on a totally new marketing campaign, not only to develop the messaging that focus on what they do best, but also find the right people that actually need to hear that message. And I think that's in general what I do best with on my sales side of my consulting business. I help companies do that, right? So to make sure we focus on the things that they do best and and develop a strategy to tell the right customer the right message. Anybody who does that is going to increase sales and profits and are going to get rid of the customers that really are not suited for what they do. In today's environment, you got to do that more than ever because you can't really afford to take on the customers that aren't profitable. It's just the way it is.
And also, as trends change, different people may be better target markets than others, um, as changes happen. So, just like with everything else, you've got to be, continually evaluating the situation, your customers, your products, your costs, your workforce. Um, you know, it's important to really stay on top of that stuff and analyzing what's going on and making adjustments as appropriate rather than waiting to see problems and challenges and having to be reactive to what's going on. You can be proactive and make things go on. So, one thing, I love doing this every week, but I hate that an hour goes so fast. So,
Sure does.
we're bumping up on the hour. But before we go, I think we covered some great stuff. And, this is extremely valuable for business owners. But, I always ask guests to really take a second to really hit on three key things. So if you take nothing else away from what we said, what are three key things that people should take away and can really start working on and implementing with what they're doing starting tomorrow?
So number one is don't be afraid of raising prices. Make sure you raise your prices and understand that. Number two, uh, get ready for the difficult conversations that you're going to have with customers. That's most likely going to be new for you. And number three, make sure that you assist your employees through this time by giving them raises and cost of living allowances to get through these difficult times because you don't want to lose the good employees that you have through this time because there is still a shortage of people and you will lose them if you don't pay them properly. Those are the three big things.
Okay. No, outstanding. Yeah, definitely raising the prices, and understanding your value. Um, employees are key, and it's important to understand that the employees are being impacted just like you, actually usually even worse than you because they make less. So the increases are a lot higher percentage of their income. So
And you know what? I will give you another thing. They're under incredible stress. They have stress that they don't show you. They have challenges from all sides. Think about it. I mean, for us on the business owner side, we need more money. We have the ability to do that by selling more, by working harder. If you're on a fixed income, on a salaried income, and everything else is going up and everything else is uncertain, it's very stressful for them. And a lot of them have a lot of challenges out there, a lot of mental health challenges out there. You've heard about that. But it's actually really true. People are fragile out there. And if you're hard on employees, this is a tough time for that. It's just my observation from my clients.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And even as a business owner, you may have some of those same challenges.
Right.
And it's important to get help.
Important to get help.
Don't suffer in silence, because that's not going to help you at all. And the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be. So,
right.
I think this has been extremely valuable. Definitely appreciate you hanging out with me tonight,
Sure.
Gene. And, looking forward to continuing this conversation. As always, it's great to have you as a regular guest. We'll have you back in a couple months as well on a new topic. But
thank you
for a few minutes as I close out. And, definitely you said how you like the ShopRite pretzels.
Yeah.
Actually, our big thing is the Pathmark grits. So I don't know if there's anyone else, but Pathmark has some pretty good grits for as well. But
I mean, I remember those pretzels from when I was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
They used to be rings, and now they're
okay.
Yeah.
So so things change. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. So I will catch up with you in a minute. Hang in there. So once again, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Once again, for Leadership Live at 8:05. Hopefully you got something valuable out of it. I appreciate the comments and the feedback throughout the show. And, we keep it up available on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you want to check it out again, if you missed anything, or if you know people who you think could benefit from what we shared today, definitely feel free to invite them to check it out as well. And look forward to catching you next week. So, really at the end of the day, it's important to stay on top of this. And, it's really about, knowing is half the battle. So the more that you know, the faster that your business is going to grow. So with that, I will say good night, and we'll close out and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.